This is David Gray, Mandan, North Dakota. Today's May 26, 2022. Today's discussion focuses on the philosophical nature of freedom and liberty in the ancient world. Some of what we'll touch on today will resonate to moderns in the Western world, and much of it will not. First, let's visit the idea of freedom as outlined by Aristotle. Aristotle lived from 384 BC to 322 BC. He was a Greek philosopher and polymath during the classical period in ancient Greece. A student of Plato, he was a founder of the Lyceum and the Aristotelian tradition. His writings cover a galaxy of topics. Aristotle provided a synthesis of the various philosophies existing prior to his own time. From his teachings, the West acquired its intellectual vocabulary and methods of inquiry. His philosophy has had an influence on almost every form of knowledge in the West and continues to be an object of current philosophical discussion. In our reading by Moira Walsh, Aristotle's Conception of Freedom, published in the Journal of the History of Philosophy in 1997, we get a detailed look into Aristotle's views on what constituted freedom. Excuse me. According to Walsh, Aristotle conceived of freedom as the capacity to direct oneself to those ends which one's reason rightly recognized as choice-worthy. This rings well in modern ears, but Aristotle had rather negative corollaries to his concept of freedom. First, the circle of freemen in Athens correspond to the ruling elite and their associates, which was together was a minority group in the polis. His definition of freedom cannot be understood in the absence of the idea of natural slavery. Aristotle makes a firm distinction between a man who is naturally suited for freedom and a man who is naturally suited for slavery. Aristotle makes the case that the naturally ruling freeman has an intellectual capacity the natural slave does not. Aristotle lived in a world where slavery was considered a normal state of human existence. Consequently, Aristotle reasoned that slaves are by nature capable of belonging to another, which is why he belongs to another, and who participates in reason only to the extent of perceiving it but does not have it. That's according to Aristotle. Walsh says, while the slave depends on the master in order to know what ought to be done, the free man, the man fitted to be a master, can see for himself what is good. He has the rational capacity, the reason, of apprehending suitable needs and choosing appropriate ends to those ends. In other words, the slave is incapable of self-direction. Additionally, the free man is bound to live a virtuous life dedicated to the good of society. Walsh says of the free man, it would be slavish to work for the sake of any good less than the virtuous life. Now we advance 3 centuries and move to Rome to examine the concept of liberty according to Cicero. Marcus Tullius Cicero, who lived from 106 BC to 43 BC, was a Roman statesman, lawyer, scholar, and philosopher who tried to uphold traditional principles of the Roman Republic during the political crisis that led the establishment of the Roman Empire. Cicero was executed in the turmoil of that struggle. His extensive writings include treatises on rhetoric, philosophy, and politics, and he is considered one of Rome's greatest orators and prose stylists. In our reading, Cicero, Roman Republicanism, and the Contested Meaning of Libertas, published in Political Studies by Geoff Kennedy, Kennedy points out there were many conflicting concepts of liberty at the time of Cicero. The Romans broadly defined liberty as the capacity for the possession of rights in the absence of subjection. Kennedy states that the definition of liberty at the time of Cicero was hotly contested by rival political groups, notably the Optimates and the Populares. The Optimates, Latin for the best ones or aristocrats, represented the ruling elite and the primacy of the Senate in all Roman affairs. The Populares, the demagogues or populists, sought popular support against the dominant oligarchy, either in the interests of the people or themselves. Cicero often opposed the populares and branded them as security threats to the Republic. Kennedy writes, in order to comprehend Roman liberty, we need to understand what it meant, or that it meant many things to many different people. Some conceptions of libertas emphasized the negative aspects of Roman liberty, while others emphasized its positive aspects. Some emphasized democratic aspects, while others emphasized the elitist and aristocratic aspects of liberty. To Cicero, liberty coexisted with the dignitas of the best men and the auctoritas of the Senate. Thank you.